Hello. You're on mute, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm listening to another webinar until 12:30.
Ah, got it. Just wanted to let you know in case you didn't. Hello. Is that Olivier? Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Cold. How are you doing?
Good. Good. We are just waiting for people to join. Is that you're cold?
Yeah, I'm freezing.
Hey, Christine.
Hi, how are you, Paul?
Good. We're just waiting for people to join, and then we'll get started.
Sounds good. How many people usually join?
Anywhere from like 15 or 16 usually.
Okay.
Around there.
Good crew.
We'll see. How's your day going?
Good. I'm trying to figure out how to get back into the business career. I had an email change and they don't let you do it yourself. It's fascinating.
Hey, Michelle.
Hey, Paul. Hi, Trisha. Hi, Christine.
Hi, I had to mute the other thing I was listening to. Hello.
Dennis.
Good morning.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hey.
Hey.
We will, so we're collecting people in the room here, and then we'll get started in about, we'll start at about 12:35, about 5 after. Anything beyond that will encourage tardiness. Should start having like a game where, yeah, Anthony, you just did that, like, you know, a background contest.
Yeah. Let's do it. Olivier, how's it going?
It's going. Actually,
ready?
talking about background contest, I had to convince somebody that what is behind me is a real wall and not the background. So you see, my wall is so nifty that people thought it was actually a fake background.
Well, because it's transitioning in and out a little bit. So
That's what they were
right?
saying. Yeah. I guess I'm a superhero or something. I don't know.
Start in like 2 minutes. Anybody have anything fun happen in the day?
Nope,
Nope.
nothing. Oh, Olivier, you got something going on tonight, don't you?
I do. I think you do too.
Yeah.
You're gonna start in like 60 seconds.
So Anthony, did you look at the presentations?
I have. I have.
Entertaining, huh?
Yeah, yours was the best.
Uh-oh, don't say that. You're gonna jinx me. Actually, I thought there were a lot of good ones.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get started. Maybe so the first so we've got two main topics today and then an option at the end for people to connect, and we can set up breakout rooms if people want to connect with each other. But what we're going to cover is first provide a little bit more of a vision for where we're going to go with the huddle with this meeting ongoing. Second, we're going to cover a sales process that I like to call LIDAR, which we'll get into in a bit. It helps really frame up and close more deals. But before that, since part of this connection is really to help everyone connect with each other in this community, why don't we just take like 5 minutes and everyone go around and just provide a real quick introduction as to your name, your company, and like a one sentence kind of like answer as to like what your company achieves or sorry, what your company is focused on. Does that sound good?
Yep.
I'll start. My name is Paul Fisher. I'm the Director of Innovation and one of the business coaches at HCDC. Well, my company is with HCDC, and so we are here to support you. So, Trish, how about I just, I'll direct traffic here. So Trish, why don't you go next?
I'm Trisha Savage. I'm the marketing director for HCDC. I joined the team in January. Looking forward to learn more about our clients and how we can help fill some of the gaps for them.
Olivier.
Okay, hi, I'm Olivier Fisher, and I'm on the 4th floor, usually, 401, Suite 401. Transmission is the name of our company, and we're software developers, so we develop anything from websites to database systems. We focus, our kind of focus is on user interface design. And Anthony was mentioning that today, I mean, we also develop products, and we have a product right now that is part of the Sustainable Cincy Accelerator. And so we're having our big presentation tonight.
Thanks for joining. Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Thompson, and I'm here with my partner, Christine Steck, and she can explain too. Our company is the brand Evaluator. Some of you might have attended one of our trainings we did with HCDC, but our purpose is really to help new companies and nonprofits with their branding and really show what's possible from a brand identity and story positioning standpoint. And we're new to HCDC and we're excited to be here.
So Christine, you go next.
Sounds good. It's nice to meet everybody. Like Michelle said, we're very excited to be part of the HCDC community and our first huddle. My background is in brand strategy and storytelling. So with Michelle, as she said, we're focused on helping startups and nonprofits really understand their foundational strategic efforts and then bring that to life through stories, messaging, and brand identity.
Apollonio.
Hey everyone, Apollonio Garcia. I'm the CEO founder of HealthGuard. We are an enterprise software company that makes risk management software for hospitals. First huddle, new HCDC client as of about a month ago.
Awesome. Dennis. You're on mute, Dennis, just so you know.
I'll try to fill in for him.
It probably sounded better muted. But anyway, my name's Dennis Reinersman. I'm a senior business coach here at the HCDC. Been here for 6 years. Apps is one of my clients, and he is one of the people that went through our morning mentoring program, and as a result became a client. So I've been working with him every week, and he's going to do well. He's very detailed and very focused on where he's going.
Cool. So Pat.
Well, welcome everybody. Good to see everybody. I like the idea that lots of faces and that sort of thing. Apps, good to see you again. It's been a while. But glad to have everybody here. Was the incubator director before becoming president and CEO of HCDC and all the many good things this organization tries to do for the community here. Proud of the team and proud of the year that we're having. Yes, this is COVID related, and COVID is affecting all of us, but we still saw companies that were able to produce some revenues this year, and we still saw companies that were able to access capital. And Dennis led us to our 200th morning mentoring session. We've done more morning mentoring sessions this year than probably any other prior year when we went to a kind of a weekly instead of a monthly kind of online version, which has been great. But happy to have Paul and Trish and Anthony on the team leading us through this this exercise. And we love this opportunity for you to get to see each other, and I think this is good. But the reason I guess why I'm kind of taking a little bit of time here is to say thank you for being part of our group, and B, good things continue to really happen here at the incubator, and I shouldn't be surprised. The energy and the passion that the entrepreneurs bring to the table here is phenomenal. And I'd like to say that all we do is choose winners to be part of our program. And but I don't think we choose winners. I think you're winners, and you show us every day by showing up and being present and doing the good things that help grow your business. And please know that HCDC is here to support you in any way we possibly can. So know that Paul, Trisha, Anthony, Dennis, and myself are, and Marianne, who's not on the picture, are all here to help you and grow your business. So thank you. And yes, Paul, I know I probably used too much time, but sorry about that.
You're good. Anthony. It just means Anthony can't share as much.
Yeah, no, thanks, thanks, Pat. Thanks, Paul. Welcome, everybody. Anthony Seppi, Business Center coach, advisor. I work with Paul and Dennis and Pat and Trish and the rest of the Business Center team. Yeah, thanks for joining us today. And my role is coach, advisor, helping you guys achieve success is really, our role here at the Business Center. So thanks again for joining.
Matt.
Yeah, I'm Matt Beischel. I founded Corvus CRO, which is we basically provide conversion optimization, revenue growth for e-commerce companies through analytics research, user testing, and hypothesis generation and usability research.
Cool. Jerry.
Hi, how's everyone doing? My name is Jerry Valentine. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, currently living in Columbus, where I am the founder and CEO of a startup company called Renter Mentor, where we help connect people to affordable housing by providing a more secure, centralized, and automated way to list, manage, and search for affordable housing. And we are new as well to HCDC. So I'm glad to be connected. Anthony has been doing a great job with, working with me, providing a lot of the, opening resources is, tremendous and helping a lot. So just looking to continue to, network, grow, and learn from you guys. So thank you.
Cool. Two more. Paul.
It's funny how you have to lean over and unmute yourself to talk. I'm watching everybody do it and just smiling. So I'm Paul Mckelsky. I started a couple companies, 212 Environmental Consulting, based on my couple decades of cleaning up contaminated sites all over the country. And spinning out of that is our newest company, which is 212 Environmental Products, and that's the company that's based at the HCDC. In the room today, I actually have another gentleman with us, George, and George is our business development, director, and he's going to listen in as this is an interesting topic for us and trying to figure out how to market and sell our environmental products.
Cool.
Thanks.
Welcome. And Lamarque.
Hey, this is my first time ever coming. I've been at HCDC now. I'm not sure if it's been a complete year yet, or maybe it has. I started Dream Builders University here. Let me. There we go. I started Dream Builders University almost 10 years ago, and I started several other companies that I lead, and this is my first time here, so I don't know what to expect, but I'm excited to learn.
Cool. Thanks for joining. Thanks for everybody that's first time joining us. There's a couple, obviously, I know that have been here before, but really appreciate the turnout. This is, so what we're going to do is we're going to share a bit, take about 10 minutes to share the vision for the huddle going forward. Prior to this, we've been collecting a lot of information, and then we'll spend the balance of the time, about a half hour, on this concept that I like to call LIDAR, and how it can be leveraged, how a simple acronym can be leveraged to help think about sales, like when you're in the close process. So and you'll understand why we're kind of getting into this in a second. So I'm going to share my screen, and feel free to ask questions along the way. We want to make it interactive. I'll do my best to then keep us on schedule here, because we want to be respectful of your time. And at the end, for those that want to stay for like another half hour, we can set people up in breakout rooms to connect and learn from each other if you'd like, because obviously this is also about connections and helping you learn from each other. So I am going to share my screen. So, and this is a recording too. So you know, not that anyone would share something that they wouldn't want on the cover of the New York Times. But it's for your consumption and for others' consumption afterwards. And so what we're going to cover today is again, the huddle, the vision for it, and then how LIDAR can be used to close more sales. And then we'll have an optional client sales challenge or breakouts at the end, and we can read the room and see what you want to do. So first, we want to just share a bit more about the huddle. As a whole, the huddle is really all about kind of providing you an outpost for you to just help achieve your entrepreneurial goals. It's really just a step kind of in the journey. You know, many of you are like tackling pretty big challenges. And the huddle is really kind of this place where you can come to, you know, learn more about pertinent topics, connect with peers, and then connect with resources that you might need to be able to make that journey, right? You know, over the mountain to wherever your kind of key objective is, right? To help you along that journey. The way we started with this is it's been going on for this is the fourth one that we've run. And it started back in August. The first 2 months of the huddle were really more focused on understanding what your needs are. And so what we did was we conducted direct client sensing. We had sessions like this where we, you know, separated all of you in breakout rooms to talk about what some of your big pain points are. And then we kind of started to transition to having an informal client happy hour in October. And now we're really, instead of, not that we're going to stop listening, we want to keep listening to what it is that you need. We're going to start activating, right? And moving into, okay, what are we going to do with this once every 4-week meeting? So who's it for? It's really for, you know, multiple different types of clients. It could be for current founders or future founders. It could be, you know, team members, even if they're not a founder, if there's team members that are business development representatives, if they're marketing team members, if they're social media managers, if they're HR team members, right? They might be interested in it. And then it's also for those interested in hearing from subject matter experts. It's for those that want to connect with peers. And then finally, again, it's about connecting to entrepreneurial resources. And so we want to hear what, you know, as we go, there'll be a spot to ask, hey, what else might you be interested in? So we can collect that information. Really why it exists is to just be a supportive growth channel for you. And it taps into HCDC's track record of providing thought leadership, providing resources, and the supportive network that we've done in the past. This is just a continuation of that. The ongoing structure that we envision is continuing every third Wednesday not every third Wednesday, the third Wednesday of each month. From 12:30 to 1:30 is the formal time, but we'll have the meeting open for about 90 minutes so that the first 60 minutes can be more formal topic-based presentations, and then the next 30 minutes can be reserved for client connections and peer learning. What we found is that you like talking to each other because there's oftentimes challenges, problems, hurdles that you all face. And it's a great way for you to then tackle them together and learn from each other. The more formal subject matter or the more formal presentation work will really focus on 3 key areas. There's sales and marketing, what we call proving your business, and then organizational development. What we heard from you was that there's 3 big areas that you're continuously trying to tackle. And so some of these things might be how to go and, work on your search engine optimization. It might be how to build an employee manual. It might be how to improve your company's culture. And so the way that it'll be brought to life is, here's kind of a basic example, but let's say over the next 6 months, we'll rotate through the topics each month. So this month, we're going to be talking about prospecting. In December, we'll talk about proving your business. In January, we'll talk about organizational development, and then we'll recycle, right? So in February, we'll then talk about prospecting again. In March, we'll talk about proving your business. And these are, the ones that are session titles. They're really examples at this point. We're in the process of taking the more tactical pain points that you shared. So things like, how do I leverage LinkedIn Sales Navigator was one that someone mentioned. We'll start to then take those more tactical ones and approach experts in the space to then bring them into this session to, share their knowledge with you. So some sessions might, apply to you, some might not, right? But we want to make sure there's a continuous flow of topics that hit on these 3 key areas, which were ones that you all mentioned to us. So, so I guess full stop here for a moment. Would love any initial thoughts or feedback that you all might have. And even if you have any ideas, after the session too, for subject matter experts you think have been very, very valuable in your own entrepreneurial journey that we could then bring to this session to share. So I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second and then make sure we just take about 5 minutes here to get any potential feedback that you might have. Anybody?
Paul, this is apps. I absolutely love the structure, the way you guys have put that together, the themes and then the topics underneath those themes and on a rotating basis. Love that. It gives us something to look forward to and to focus on and to think about within our own businesses.
Cool.
Any others? I want to give some concrete examples, Paul. I really appreciate what you guys have done already through this. I've connected with the guys up on 4th Floor Media. We just signed a contract with them to shoot our demonstration videos. As it turns out, nobody knows how to use what we build. So there's kind of a lack of an understanding in the market, which is a real problem if you're trying to sell those things. So those guys are going to be a great way for us to be able to do promotional videos and how-to videos. I know Anthony and Pat and Christine are helping us with things. We wouldn't have been able to actually use the resources that were available to us within the HCDC have you guys not started this Huddle event. So we see a lot of value to it. I really appreciate you guys. I know it's work and I appreciate you guys doing it.
Yeah, I mean, we love doing it. So what I'm hearing you saying is structure, connections. This actually starts to help us think about even how to market it more broadly across the building, across the publications that we share with the community. So great.
Paul,
any other thoughts, adds?
Yeah, this is apps again. Just a curiosity, and I'm sure you have a listing, but is there for us to understand who's in the ecosystem, the HCDC ecosystem that Paul just referenced, Paul Fisher, is there an opportunity there for there to be like some kind of commercial, or not, and commercial is the wrong word, but just a way for members to understand what resources there are and what other members in the ecosystems that we could potentially leverage? Because I have the same pain point that Paul Mckelsky has, is needing an explainer video built. So I would love to know who that person is.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's Pat Longo here. All of you've got someone that is assigned with you, that's kind of your point person for the relationship. And obviously we leverage off of each other. So feel free. I mean, apps, if you're looking to make a connection like Paul did, if it's Anthony that's your coach, or Dennis that's your coach, or if it's me, we can get you in touch with others in the building. That's fine. I know on our website, and Trish, I might ask you to kind of to guide through. We have a number of our resources and our lists of people that are here and how to get in touch with, because not everybody is here, and that's part of the whole COVID strain that I think we're all experiencing. And one of the reasons why I'm excited about the Huddle and the idea that the team brought up and is fleshing, you know, and it's a work in progress from that standpoint. So, but yeah, apps, I mean, there's point person. It's not like, hey, I'm going to guide you right to this webpage and it's going to have an answer. I think a lot of things of why it works here is that we have that connectivity with you. And if your coach or your person that sits on your shoulder doesn't have it, that we have weekly or bi-weekly meetings amongst ourselves where we help each other help you. So know that the network and the web is not just broad, but it's also deep.
Apps, I can send you Tommy G's contact information of Fourth Floor Creative.
And remember, Dennis is always going to be much more specific, and I'm going to use a lot more words.
Well, let me be clear. My question isn't a reflection of the job that Dennis has been doing. He's been a fantastic coach. So it was more about just how do we stay in tune with what the resources and who's in the ecosystem, because I'm sure that's always changing. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, maybe there's like a, I mean, within the startup Cincy ecosystem, there's an ecosystem map. And so what I hear you potentially even saying is there a need for like a resource type map within the HCDC ecosystem?
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. Just something where we can, easily find out who's out there. Thank you.
Yeah, that is kind of a pain point that we've identified as a team, that we need to work on our communication and a way to connect everyone within the building. And that is something that we're working toward.
Anthony and I have actually been working with one of our clients to develop out a software solution where everybody's connected to everybody. There's bios of everybody out there that you can look for or look at. There's, I mean, Anthony, you might want to explain more if you feel comfortable with it.
Yeah. I mean, some of the feedback that we've gotten from you over the past couple months, like as Paul laid out, was how do we better connect, companies within the HCDC community. And so we are looking at some tools to better connect people on a digital platform, digital medium. We know that, the Facebook Workplace is out there and Slack is out there, but not everyone is really leveraging that, and they may not be the best tools for connecting individuals. So we're looking at some other options, and one of those has been developed by a client here at the business center. So we're working with him to pilot that solution. So this is good conversation right now, listening to everyone.
All right. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, we're going to move on to the second piece.
One more quick thought.
Yeah.
Would be maybe just a suggestion, like once a quarter, all the clients share what they're actively working on, like that just came up with the proof of concept videos, and then we'd all have a sense of who's doing what, and maybe we can offer help, or we can get help that way too.
That's great.
Paul, I just wanted to add, I had kind of got a topic idea listening to Anthony speak about piloting a solution. I think that will be a topic in which, what we're going through with Renter Mentor and talking with different agencies and how to exactly, pitch a pilot. So, a pilot program with the agency, those type details. Should it be paid, free? I know it's going to be contingent on the organization's kind of goal, but I know that is something in which, I've never done, and we're kind of making stuff up as we go, but I'm pretty sure there's probably some type of best practice that we could benefit from.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary, we're all making this up as we go, brother. Make it till you make it, right?
Okay.
So it looks like Valley just joined us here. I don't know how long you've been here, Valley, but you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Anthony. My name is Vali Tadian. I am the founder of Always Education, a software company that is bringing to the higher education a new learning environment, which is particularly transformative now that everything is going online.
Great. Thanks, Valley. So we were just sharing the vision for the huddle. Was there any last comments? And then we'll move into LIDAR. All right. So today's topic that's centered around prospecting. And this is more about further down the funnel, right? About, hey, you've already got a potential meeting right on the books with a prospective client, and you really need to kind of like, you know, and you're prepping for your sales meeting, and so you really want to think of, okay, how do I approach the meeting, right? How do I make sure that I'm working down towards the actual sale and like getting what I want out of this, without losing sight of what the prospective customer need is, right? And so what LIDAR does is I guess first, you know, feel free to go on mute. Who here knows what LIDAR is? So LIDAR it's pretty cool. So and so I'm sure there's a few that know and a few that don't know, but LIDAR really stands for laser imaging detection and ranging. But what it does at the core is it helps you see your landscape more clearly. It's a technology that's commonly used for self-driving cars. It's commonly used in surveying, in the surveying industry and in forestry applications. And we got a few images here. So one image is, you know, a picture from CES that shows how these sensors that I have in the middle here really read the landscape so that a car knows where it's going and knows how it can really see what's in front of it or what's around it so that it doesn't get off path. Another one is a surveying image that shows, you know, what a topographical location might look like. And so you might wonder, okay, well, why, you know, what does this have to do with sales? Well, at the end of the day, sales is really about making sure you can see the landscape really, really clearly and see what your customer really needs and can see beneath the canopy of the trees to the ground floor to provide what it is that they seek. It's also a helpful acronym to keep you on track, right? And so let's just kind of walk through, okay, why it exists, how it works, and then what it specifically is. And so first, it's really knowing and meeting the need of your customer. I'd say knowing and meeting the need is that you can't know what they meet or know what they need and then not provide them something that meets that need, because at the end of the day, they won't be a customer for long. You also can't know what they need and then provide them a product if you don't, sorry, you can't provide them a product that is of long-term value if you don't know what they need. It requires a set of baseline skills and mindsets that are easily learnable. And then what it actually is, the actual process, the methodology starts with learning, moves to an idea, and then progresses to describing what that idea is. And then the last two steps are accentuating what the benefits of the idea are. And then finally, requesting the sale. And so what we're going to walk through is hey, why should you even like care and listen to me, right? Second, we'll then get into what some of the skills and mindsets are. And then last, we'll walk through each one of these sections of learn, idea, describe, accentuate, and request. So first, this is just built off of like experience that I've had across functions, industries, and companies over my 15-year career. Be it at P&G, at Gallo Winery, at Cody Beauty, and even at a smaller company like the Garage Group. What was pretty clear is that some derivation of this process existed within the sales organizations at every single one of these companies. They likely use a different acronym or they called it something else. But it was really a kind of a switch away from this idea of features and benefits based sales. And so the idea that you lead with your features and benefits, in the sense of LIDAR, you start with taking a step back and learning what your customer needs. Who here's seen the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, or heard of the ABCs of sales? Anyone has anyone heard of that?
Yep.
So was that Apollonia?
Yeah. Always be closing. Yep.
Always be closing. I mean, was there? So have you seen the movie, and then like, is it something that you've put into practice at all?
No, I suck at that kind of stuff.
Well, good, because it's actually like it can come across as pretty forceful, right? And what it doesn't do is it actually, while you should always be thinking about closing, it puts empathy on the back burner when empathy should be at the forefront of any sales conversation that you're having. Second, really the how behind it is it requires 5 key skills. So first, it requires knowledge of your own product, right? You can't walk into a sales meeting and not have crystal clear knowledge and understanding of what it is that you provide. Thanks for joining, Jerry. Second, it also then requires a deep kind of consumer understanding, right? But then third, in any meeting, it really requires a ton of listening. And this is where I see most people and most processes actually start to falter, is that there's not nearly enough listening that happens in a sales pitch meeting that that should happen, because listening ends up being the foundation for you to be able to then have agility and actually like think about the knowledge you have of your product, listen to what they need, and then adapt during a meeting to pitch what it is that the customer actually needs in the end, which is the fifth piece. So what we're going to do then is talk a little bit about the process. So it's a repeatable process and methodology that takes a ton of practice. I can't tell you the amount of like sales meetings that I've sat through at the Garage Group, at Gallo, at Cody, and then less so at P&G. And P&G I was in marketing, but we used a similar type of methodology in some cases with our sales teams. And what I would say is that when you think about this acronym, LIDAR, 80% of your time is going to be spent in the learning phase. Oftentimes we think that it's actually about 80% of the time needs to be spent in this describing what your idea is and listing off all the benefits. It's actually flip-flopped. You should be spending a lot less time sharing what the simple idea is, describing it in more detail, talking about the benefits and making the ask. You should be spending a lot more time in any meeting that you have where you're asking somebody, whether it's an investor, whether it's a prospective buyer, spend as much time as possible learning what they need. Want to do a quick check-in first. Are there any initial questions that people might have on the acronym and why a simple process like this might be beneficial before I move on?
I don't have any questions, but it's a phenomenal process. I went through JAWS selling training and did a series of exercises and mock examples of trying to uncover the need. And we had to count the number of questions we asked versus the number of times we actually were talking about ourselves. It's really enlightening to do that exercise to really get you in the mindset of learning and listening first and making that your priority.
One of the things that I've learned, and I think it's probably in your first section there, is you have to build a relationship with your potential customer. He's not going to give you the time of the day or answer your questions or give you all his truthful thoughts if you don't build some kind of rapport with him up front. I think that's a very basic place to start.
Yeah, I love that. So Christine, thank you so much for your comment. One meeting I remember in particular is we were pitching business for it was a Fortune 1000 company, and there were four of us on the line speaking to two people on the other line, and the four of us probably spoke like 75% of the time, and we ended up we ended up being able to get to a proposal, created a proposal for the work that we wanted to do. But in the end, what happened is we didn't get the business. And what we all surmised at the end was that we didn't ask enough questions and we didn't spend enough time listening to what it is that the two people in the line, the two prospective customers really needed. And so we ended up missing the boat completely. And then we ended up spending, 4 or 5 days building a proposal, which ended up being likely a waste, except for the fact that we learned that it was a bad approach. And Dennis, thanks a bunch for that, because it actually ties right into this first step, right? Like the L step is really critical. I was talking to Nancy Eichholz, she's the CEO of Evaluator, a little bit about this process. And as she and I talked about it, there's even like a before step that you even have before you even get into a meeting, right? And that's just a basic like needs assessment and a landscape assessment. And so before you, even if it's only like an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours before you have a sales meeting, you really want to make sure you hypothesize what some potential motivations might be for your prospective buyer. Partially because, to Dennis's point, it helps you start to develop potential ways in that you can see what their challenges are and either confirm what those challenges are or start to ask questions to build a relationship with that individual. It can also help you think about who they potentially use, if any, right, going in. And so you can then do an assessment to say, hey, here's how we compare to that potential supplier. It's not something that you're going to use right out of the gates. It might be something you use a little bit further down the line of the process. The second step is really like during the meeting, right? So you've got your pitch deck. It's perfect, right? You've got your why, how, what strategy outline. You've got how your product, is better than your competitors, who you've worked with, right? All your key claims and benefits. But it's really just a way to kind of engage in a conversation. And what you want to try and do is ask as many open-ended questions as possible. So you want to avoid questions that end in yes or no answers. So asking a question like, hey, how often do you buy or, hey, how often do you find yourself in this type of situation, right? And you can talk about the situation versus like, do you ever find yourself in need of, you know, or do you ever find yourself thirsty? Who knows? Some people might not like, might just want to say no. I mean, most people would obviously like to say yes in that example, but sometimes people are very like reserved and closed off, and you want to get them to open up and start to share information that will help you assess whether or not you even have a product that can meet their need. And then last, within this process, it's really about remembering that you're not selling, you know, and you want to know if they have a solution to, or a reason to buy. And you want to get to the end of this phase and you want to say something like, so it sounds like you want something like this, or it sounds like you find yourself in this type of scenario or this type of situation or with this type of need often, right? And you want them to then confirm that before you move on to the next step. Does anybody have any questions on this right now? Or are there other thoughts?
A little bit of a question, or actually it is a question, not a little bit. It's an actual question for you, Paul. You know, we deal in complex business to business sales, right? There's multiple stakeholders, multiple influencers and buyers. You know, there's multiple meetings to understand the needs, to qualify the opportunity, to you know, get to the heart of it before you can even begin to you know, get to a decision process, which sometimes involves, again, multiple stakeholders, right? So you know, how do you, are you cycling through this process at each meeting stage, or you know, this is a pretty cut dry here, you know, 1, 2, 3 steps. Our sales never work like this.
Yeah.
I mean, right? Our sales could take months and sometimes even years.
Yeah. So the simple answer is like, I like to use this process in almost any meeting that I'm walking into, with an understanding of like, hey, in your case, right, it might the request might not be, you know, the request to buy something immediately. It might be a request to get an introduction to the next person in the process, or it might be a request to get permission to try out a element of the product, right? So it's like, I usually break it down to what looks like success for that meeting that helps enable a continued kind of progress in the sales journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
So like, as an example, when I was at Gallo, we were selling customized ingredient solutions to nutraceutical businesses in some cases. And oftentimes getting our ingredients into one of those products really helped us identify, A, if they even were starting a new product or launching one, B, who were the key decision makers that we needed to be in front of, and then C, what was the key things that we needed to be presenting to them at the right point in time. And so what oftentimes it was really just getting an in first to be on the front end of when they were creating new products and having a meeting with the R&D directors, at which point in time it got us to then request being part of their, you know, upcoming kind of like RFP process for different products. Because they had a database, so that got us in. And then we'd move on to the next step, which was actually formal proposals, but that took, you know, 6 to 12 months, right?
Well, Paul, you know, one of the things I noticed in this process is pretty similar to what the business model canvas preaches. That is that you don't go in and ask yes and no questions. You try to understand what their jobs are, what are the jobs to be done, what are you comfortable with, what are you having issues with. So it's a discovery process, not a yes and no process.
Exactly. Yep.
Paul, I think this is great. I agree with the jobs to be done philosophy. I mean, that's from Dr. Clayton Christensen from Harvard.
Yeah.
So I love that part. But the one thing that the way I look at that as far as the learn part is I call that cognitive listening, right? You know, where you're not just listening to what they need, but listening to their intentions of the heart. So you can really do that other part, which is, you know, describe more clearly what they need for them so you can connect it. In today's marketplace, dollars are short and hard to come by. And if you don't win their heart, they're not going to be quick to hand over those dollars.
Right. I love that. That's great.
Well, Paul, the
So-
other thing what I like about that LIDAR concept is that you really need to go into the organization and understand this internal structure. Who has the power? Who makes the decision? You have to make sure that you're hitting on the strategic, operational, and functional levels within that organization. So that LIDAR needs to go out and find all those people and what their needs are.
Totally. And so back to the example I had within that, Dennis, is when we were approaching one of the nutraceutical companies. So nutraceutical is like a Shackley or an Herbalife, right? Ingredients-based companies that are elixirs for longer life, right? We purposefully knew that we had to have 2 or 3 different people in a meeting. We needed to have one person to be able to speak with the buyer if they were in the meeting. We needed to have one person that was a board member, right, that came along in the meeting. And we needed to have, obviously, like the business development person. And so it was like very, 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 very thoughtful to say, hey, here is exactly what we need for the landscape, because it's going to take a team to assess whether or not there's even a need here and if we should move on to the next stage. So let's move on to the next stage. So the next stage is really an idea. It's making a recommendation. And so the recommendation, you know, for a fast moving consumer good, it might be something as simple as like, hey, we want to, you know, create an end cap for our new product in 2 of your stores for, you know, January, February, March. I don't know. Another idea might be, hey, you've got a new product that you're testing in another market, right? How about we do some samples, right? Provide you with some samples to include in this new product, and you can see, and your R&D people can see how it works, right? The idea is really to say, here's what a simple idea is. You want to capture at the outset, hey, something like, it sounds like your team is having trouble. In this case, the example I've got is, it sounds like your team's having trouble keeping your social media calendar full, right? Maybe it's maybe it's an agency that manages social media calendars for clients. I suggest you give our social media funnel filler bots a try, right? And so you want to make sure it's incredibly simple, and then if it's overly complex, that you are potentially breaking it up into different stages in the journey. Because if it's overly complex, you're going to lose them. And then last but not least in this stage is just gauging your buyer. If you ask them, what do you think? That's an opportunity for them to come back in and assess your idea. And maybe it puts you back on that L stage, the learning. But that might be a good move, right? Sometimes it's about backtracking to learn more, and then you can move forward with another idea. In the end, if you get a yes, then it's the perfect time to kind of make sure that you move on to the next stage, which is describing what the idea is. And in this stage, it's really about, you know, then bringing those features and benefits to life. And so this is where, you know, you've got your idea, it's built off of a consumer need or a consumer insight, which you've aligned with them. Like, they've told you this, you know, because you talked about it and you focused on it for a while. And now you're able to say, hey, let me share a few features about this, right? And you might not say share a few features, right? You're gonna then list out a couple of the key things that are applicable to their need, and then share some of the benefits. This is not the time to share too many features and benefits. That can be overwhelming. You want to share 2, maybe 3 max, but ideally it might only be 1 key benefit with then a couple of key features that all ladder up to 1 primary benefit for them. So for example, with our social media example, it might be our social media funnel filler bot takes about 3 months to start working optimally. We should connect it to your social media accounts, then it can start optimizing content. You're starting to kind of like talk about optimization, a time frame at which it would work, and then what you're going to specifically do with the idea. And in this section, you're really closing out where there's a win-win, right? For me, the win is getting my social media funnel filler bot onto their platforms, right? For them, it's about optimizing time savings, things like that. And so in the interest of time, I'm going to go through the last 2 because I would normally stop right here and ask people how they're doing, how it's resonating, and ask open-ended questions. And so the last 2 steps are really focused on then now like hammering home what the key reasons to believe, the quantifiable benefits that are most resonant for them. So it might sound a little bit like you're just doing the same thing you did in the previous stage, but the previous stage is really more about a simple description. But then this stage is really about give them some pretty big reasons why they should buy. So jumping down to the bottom, the key ones that normally come up and that you see that can be powerful are testimonials or peer company use, right? Time savings, anything that's related to savings is huge. Increased efficiency or efficacy, right? Like that's a big one. If you've got certifications, some level of like reputable third-party certification. So maybe you're a certified B corporation, or maybe you've gotten the good housekeeping seal of approval, or maybe you've been recognized by Cincinnati Children's Hospital as a go-to innovation. They've got to be trusted. They've got to quantify and present leadership. And so an example might be, hey, our social media funnel filler bot is used by HubSpot, LinkedIn, and other leading B2B marketing and sales companies, right, to meet their needs. And so that starts to then layer in, oh, okay, not only is this thing going to save me time, right, it's going to save me money, but there's others that are using it that are just like me. And then last, this is where then the close comes in. And so when you get to the end and you've gotten through kind of learning, ideating, describing, and then accentuating what the key reason to buy the product is, now it's prime time to ask for the sale. And when you request for this, there's 4 different ones that you can kind of think about, right? There's direct sales, which is just a direct ask of, hey, what do you think about doing this? A presumptive sale might be something along the lines of, so, I'm thinking that we should meet with your boss. And so like, that's more of like a question or a presumption that you're making. And if they confirm that presumption, that's license for you to really like, then take the next step and set up the meeting with the next person in line. The third one might be, provide them a choice. Hey, so, do you think it'd be best for you to try this product, or do you think it'd be best to, give it to your R&D team or your development team to try? And that gets them along that step. And so those are just a few examples of how you can think about the sales process and how you can either take a direct, presumptive, or a choiceful way in. And it's also really the last opportunity you have to know if you've missed the mark. because if you miss the mark and they're hesitant and they've got objections, then what it either probably means is A, they didn't have a need to begin with, B, you missed the need somewhere, or C, there's some other combination thereof. Maybe they have a need, but they're concerned because they're not convinced that they'll be able to convince their boss that they have a need. And thus, you might be talking to the wrong person. You need to then shift your approach to say, hey, we need to get in front of your boss and talk about this together, right? So that's kind of how to think about LIDAR. I think it's a great, simple acronym to leverage that helps you know and meet the consumer's need. It relies on knowledge of your own products, understanding your consumer, being agile, listening, and then having a need. And I obviously need to switch around the ear and the foot in this. So one other thing that I'd add before I'd love to take some questions is really this is not only great for sales calls, but it's great for consumer research. So if you're in a scenario where you're testing out who your buyer is and you're meeting with a whole host of different potential buyers, you can leverage this approach to think about learning, right? First, providing an idea about how, and it could be multiple different types of ideas you test, describing what they are, accentuating the benefits, and then requesting some feedback, it might be. And the last two are like digitally. The only difference this is digitally versus in person is that most of the learning has happened likely offline, and it's being summarized at the top of a website or with a call to action or with a summary on social media or on your website or on some other tool. The learning's all happening in the background, right? And what you're doing is you're presenting your idea, describing it, accentuating it, and requesting something, regardless of if you have that learning that's out in the open. So it's about 1:35. We've got another half hour on this call if people want to stay. I guess I'd love to just take any questions or comments and then see who's interested in either connecting, so we could pair you up in breakout rooms and connect and learn more about each other's businesses, or we could do a mock sales exercise with having people sell Diet Cokes to each other.
I think the exercise is a great idea, but
Okay.
I think I'd like to also talk to some people, but I guess we could do it offline as well. We can exchange LinkedIn contact information, right?
Yeah, we could. I mean, it's easy enough for us to separate people into pairs. If that sounds good. Any other thoughts, questions from the rest of the crowd?
I have one question, Paul. Two failures that my company has had, I think would be very informative, and I would love to hear what I should have done differently to not make that mistake. One was, as a startup, when you are selling to enterprises that are large, I always realize that, first of all, I don't have resources that other large corporations have. Because the need assessment, for example, a lot of people, they have turnover in large corporations and so forth. So I have to explain again the whole story to the new person after 2 months, because they ship them to Japan, for example, and so forth. One particular case was Toyota Motor Manufacturing of North America. I went through exact same process, and I was able to meet their needs and understand the problem and provide them the solution. But I didn't get it because I asked them for $500,000 and Oracle asked them for $5 million. They gave it to Oracle. Even though our solution was much, much better than Oracle because Oracle's technology was much older, traditional type of a legacy system, whereas ours was highly modern solution. So in that situation, I lost that because they said, oh, what I'm offering them should be $5 million and I'm asking 500,000. Because I was looking as a startup that I had very small overhead. I didn't have the overhead of Oracle, right? So
Yeah.
so what should I have done differently there and how could I have learned that?
Yeah. So I want to be careful saying exactly what you should have done differently because I can't say for certain what you should have done differently. All I can guess is in some cases, maybe the buyer, right, needed more confidence that you had the ongoing resources and capabilities to meet their needs, and that the price and not being Oracle, which stinks for startups, right? It was a hurdle that was very difficult for them to get past, right? What I would say is that typically, whenever we lost, so I was in a similar position at one point in time. We were pitching business to Northwestern Mutual to do innovation work, and they needed a complete brand redesign, and we were going to be, and so I put together the proposal. We were working on it, right? And in the end, I don't know who they went with. They went with a more reputable brand company, I think out of New York. And so we were a company based in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's got tons of great brand companies, right? But we didn't think that we were asking enough money, right? We were priced probably far lower than what the other company was priced at. Thinking that price would help get us in the door, when the reality was it was really the resources that they were most concerned about and the ability to deliver something that was potentially going to be far more front and center, because it was going to go into national ad campaigns and a complete re-look and feel at their brand, right? And so that's why I can empathize a bit in that, like, it wasn't price, it was likely the fact that we just didn't have the reputation that was strong enough yet. And all that, and the way around that is to continue to generate more and more trust and reputation, and finally, like, corral one, the right company, because maybe that's not the right buyer in the end for you. So, right?
Valley,
Yes.
I have a old saying. It's going to date me, okay? But from the industry, which says nobody ever got fired for buying IBM, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like what you're describing, which is there are all these, in the old days, there were all these companies that were selling better products for a lot cheaper, but basically from the corporate guy's position, he knew that if he purchased IBM, nobody was going to come and give him any problem if anything went wrong. And that's part of what I think all of us here are facing when you're starting a business.
Mm-hmm.
Valley, it's always easy to be a Monday
right
analyst, right? Monday morning analyst after the game. But I mean, a couple of things that I would advise in a situation like that is try to understand the value that you're providing to that company, so that at least you're multiplying, your price is respectful of that. The second is to try to find out who else is bidding on the project. If you would have known Oracle was bidding, you might have thought, well, yeah, I know I can bid a lot higher. And the third thing is have they bought from a small company before. Is that acceptable to them? And I think if you, and again, I'm saying, I don't blame you for doing, for putting your price out there, but I think it's like those things could have helped.
Right. Yeah. And so I don't, yeah, exactly. So like the other thing too is, Valley, is that did you ask them after you lost the bid why they didn't go with you? Did they re-engage with you and tell you?
No, I didn't. I should have done that. That was an opportunity I missed.
Yeah, so that's the only thing I would recommend is just ask, right? Like ask them, and maybe 1 out of 3 they're actually going to tell you. But when you get that 1 out of 3 that tells you, if you're putting out a bunch of different potential proposals, right, for work, you'll start to collect data points that then tells you how you might need to pivot. So.
Thank you.
Does that LIDAR have a win-loss thing to it at the end? Win-loss analysis?
I mean, we could create one, I guess.
Yeah.
So for those still here, we have 15 minutes allotted. We could put you into breakout groups if that sounds good. I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clients, and so I could randomly assign you to breakout groups for you to learn more about each other, or to sell a Diet Coke.
Hey, Paul, unfortunately, we're going to have to drop 2. So we're going to be down to 5. I'm sorry.
No worries at all.
Thank you for everything today.
We're going to have to drop off too, guys.
Okay.
So I think it's in vogue to drop off, right? Is that what we're?
Well, we still have we've got Valley, Olivier, Matt, and you, Apollonia. So, there's can stay on. I can pair you all up, right? Or you could, or the 4 of you could just stay in a group here, and we could talk about other things that you're curious about.
Yeah, I'd like to learn more about Olivier's business. That'd be interesting to me. Can I make a comment to Valley as well? Is it appropriate?
Yeah. Go for it.
So really quickly, Valley, during the qualification process, one thing you could do, especially if you sense that they're dealing with an incumbent or probably a larger player if they're a global company, is go ahead and have the courage to put it out there and say, hey, you're probably talking to fill in the blank, Oracle, IBM, Microsoft, whatever. They're good companies, they're big companies, they've got the resources, they've got the brand, they've got the IBM, no one got fired by buying IBM factor. What would it take, right? What would it take what would I have to show you to convince you to take the risk of doing business with us, right? That takes some courage to put it out there, but you're getting, before you spend a lot of time and effort in building a proposal, you might as well ask the question, right? Because there could be nothing you could do. There's no chance in hell. They're just curious, but maybe there is. Maybe there's something that they would be willing to share with you. Just a thought.
Yeah,
well,
thank you.
And to add on to that too, though, is that I think oftentimes we think price is the key variable, when the reality is like oftentimes companies might want to work with new, innovative, right, entrepreneurs and solutions, right? Because there's a dissatisfaction with what they are currently working with, and they know they're paying a lot of money. And so maybe, one experience has been like, we found that a lot of companies would come and ask for proposals from us because we were doing something different. And so our challenge was to figure out, well, why was it? Because it wasn't necessarily price. It was more, this looks neat, right? Like this looks different. And so how do we figure out the right connection points for this neat, different benefit space to really quantify what is that, and then connect it to who they need to convince, because you have advantages that Oracle doesn't have, right? Like you could potentially be more nimble, right? You could be more dedicated, right? Like, so anywho.
I could tell you in 20 years that every time we've had to engage with purchasing departments, who I hate, we lose. Right? We lose when we deal with purchasing departments. They've got their standard checklists of, I'm doing air quotes, risk analysis or whatever they do. But when we're engaging with the end user or with some business stakeholder that, to Paul's point, has, kind of a bent for innovation or a bent for entrepreneurship or whatever it is, we have a lot more success.
Yeah. So the real R is refuse purchasing. If
Yeah.
Yes.
Just kidding. I'm gonna have to edit that piece out. So
But you can leave it in for me, but
Thank you. Thank you so much.
so we've got 10 minutes. I mean, why don't we just go around the horn and instead of breaking up into groups, share, like, take a couple minutes and share a key challenge that you have that you might want some other eyes and ears on, if that sounds good. Matt, can I pick on you?
Sure. Did I unmute?
yep.
Yeah, I've been
good.
watching. I know who's on mute and who's off of mute.
Oh,
so
no,
I knew you were ready to talk. Now you're on mute. Oh.
Exactly. See, I use my headphones so I can cheat and not be noticed on Zoom being muted. Yeah. Challenges for me are really just business development in general. Like, I keep harping that I'm not a biz dev guy. I'm like more of a operations process idea person. I don't also want to come on and say, well, I'm just the ideas guy, because everybody hates the ideas guy, right? Because they don't actually ever do anything. But I mean, so it's tough for me as a one-man operation, like trying to really just trying to find like a collaborator who's interested in doing that kind of work as well.
Okay.
Almost, and like just growing beyond myself, because there's like stuff that I can do, like I've done outreach, and like my strategy right now is really more like finding agencies to partner and pair with, where we offer complementary services, and like they can almost sell for me, and like I can sort of like train up their biz dev team on like, here's the offerings you have available and stuff, and that's working a little bit, but it's still like a really slow process. And like even through like all of 2020, like I've only really picked up like one client so far the entire year. So, it's not really a good track record.
Any thoughts that Matt's peers have? Belly, you're on mute.
Sorry. Definitely, your challenge is demand generation for your services, which means basically, as Dennis earlier on mentioned, you really need a lot of networking, relationship building, and exposure. So letting people know what your product or services are, and having the right networking, I think it would help you a lot.
Oh yeah, I've been doing a ton of that. I mean, back when you could, I was pretty active in the meetup circle here in Cincinnati, and both in like the tech and design spaces for those. And then also, I mean, I've done a lot on like LinkedIn and stuff, and like have really like ingratiated myself into a weekly group that is like an open roundtable for the type of work that I do. And so it's like you can sort of feel it start to build, but it's almost in a sense of like I'm connecting with peers, not clients, in the sense of like, you know, and it's like I don't need to sell my services to other consultants that do the same kind of work that I do.
Are there potential partners out there that you could partner with to help bring your product to market?
That's what I've been doing a little bit of as well, in terms of like like trying to find other agencies to work with where it's like they offer like complimentary service, or they're looking to expand their offering to do what I do, and say I can come in and be like, I'll be the expert on your side for that and cross-selling purposes.
As a startup, you have to be out there in front of your customer, even though you may not like that process. But I would strive to learn that process as well as you can, and then see if you can find someone to work with, or maybe bring in a partner or somebody like that that enjoys that process.
Hey, Matt, this is Apps. Do you have a couple of strong customer relationships that would you know, I don't want to say go to bat for you, but that would refer you, recommend you?
Yes, I'm all of my clients to date are achieved through referral.
So one thing we did about 7 or 8 years ago is I've been talking to my clients and other people that even weren't my clients, is found an opportunity to start a roundtable of customers, right? And they weren't our customers, but just we serve hospitals, we serve cybersecurity folks in hospitals. I started a roundtable of, you know, it's now grown to about 16 organizations. They come and meet and talk about their problems, and I facilitate the process. So I'm adding value by facilitating, you know, herding the cats. And what that's done over the years is given me the opportunity to, one is to listen and learn, right, what their problems are, but what's also done is allowed me to build trust in the relationship. And I've done business with probably half of them that I wasn't doing business with before. That's a long play, but you know, I'm the only consultant in the group. The rest of them are all end users, they're all customers. So anyway, just a thought. I'm not sure if that would apply to you, but if you could put yourself in the middle of being kind of the you know, subject matter expert, and not try to sell during these meetings, just building trust. For personal experience, that goes a long way.
Oh yeah, I was running a meetup group for a while of the same, yeah, that was focused on the type of work that I do.
Did you meet with those folks one-on-one?
No, it was more like a round table environment. Like I would bring in and have like drinks and stuff, and then I would do like some kind of like subject matter presentation, or bring someone in or something like that. Yeah.
Well, the one thing I did